Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today, guys, we are going to be diving down into the charts for Bitcoin. We have seen Bitcoin start its corrective move, but how low will BTC actually go? In this video, I'm going to dive down into the charts to try to answer just that. I do not think that anyone really truly knows, but I'm going to give you my take on where I think the most probable area that Bitcoin is going to land before it starts to continue its climb to the upside. As we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then do go ahead and subscribe. Tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you are going to be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with all of that said, done, and out of the way, let's jump on down into the charts, take a look at what is going on here with Bitcoin and what I think might actually happen next. Okay, we're going to start things off with our hourly chart, right? So here we obviously have that interesting kind of impulsive move to the upside. This is actually tracking quite well, a little bit better than I actually was anticipating to start with. I thought we're actually going to see this can kind of land around, probably around where this wave one is, just up here. We actually got that overextension, which is actually really good, and I'm going to go through a little bit of that, but I do think we want to really focus in on what this pullback means. Obviously I've been talking about it for a while anyway, but lots of things have been invalidated. This is a fantastic run up, which is great. I like to see this kind of thing. So we have invalidated a lot of those low areas for Bitcoin. But a healthy correction is due, and a healthy correction is what I think is most likely to occur here. Okay, and obviously we've got multiple different time frames. We're going to start with the hourly, and we're going to see what's going on here, and then we're going to work on up into those larger time frames so we can actually build out a bigger piece of analysis here. Okay, so obviously this impulsive move, we've spoken about this. I'm not really going to dive into it in too much detail. This impulsive move up here is fantastic, and I will just quickly show this one so we can actually analyze this very, very briefly. We have this wave 4 here, and we can see that we've actually just gone above the 4.236. So absolutely great to see another impulsive or 5-wave count to the upside, taking that out. Obviously now we're moving down. Okay, so that's good. Obviously the most probable in my opinion was the 1.618. Obviously we pushed past that after this pullback here, so great stuff to see. Now, obviously, this stochastic RSI had been slowly working its way up into the overbought area. A little bit of volatility here. We thought something was starting. I think this was yesterday morning. We thought something was starting here. It was looking pretty good, but the volumes weren't really there. And then we obviously got that FOMO kick back in, but people buying this dip, riding up a little bit higher. This was an interesting kind of setup as well. It was definitely looking kind of fourth wave to start with. We actually pulled back down a little bit deeper than I thought we were going to, because it was actually looking like it was going to be like a sideways trade, and then obviously we launched up here, and then we can see this nice move down. Now, there's a couple of things here. We're obviously on the hourly chart, right? So the hourly chart has taken that stochastic from that close to overbought area all the way down into the oversold area, and it's flatlining down there at the moment. So what's actually going on here? Well, there's a couple of ways we could count this. There is a little bit of overlap just between these two candles here. So it is ABC, it is corrective, and therefore, it's not looking, impulsive down. So we do have that, okay? But this is a micro movement. This is on our hourly chart. This is something that is going to play out, over the next kind of few hours into maybe the next day or so. It's not something that's going to be sustainable for long term. So I want to kind of get into the longer term pictures in a moment, but do bear in mind this is the hourly chart. And therefore it's going to move quite rapidly. Okay, but let's actually jump on back down into the charts here. So what do we have? Well, we have an ABC, right? So we could argue that this here is A, this here is B, and we're waiting on C. Okay, that's a pretty reasonable expectation or assumption to be made here. This is actually a little bit lower than I would have liked to have seen with a wave B. It's a bit shallow, right? So if we actually take that low point up to that high point here, we transpose this down on top of that B wave there, we can kind of get a good probable area of Bitcoin coming down into a range of about $42,000 and before potentially seeing any reversal. That's if, of course, this C wave equals the same as an A wave, which is the most probable on an ABC. Doesn't mean that it plays out that way. Sometimes they go longer, sometimes they fall shorter. And there is an interesting area of support to be found just around this area here. Specifically about $43,000. We can actually see that we bounced from this 50% retracement zone already, and we're starting to kind of come back down a little bit. Okay, so the expectation would be that we'd come down here. This is the most probable area, and again, this might be an entire A wave in itself, because what you tend to find on some of these larger time frames is an ABC move sits inside of an A move. Okay, so then we look for that bounce. Do we find rejection, and do we continue to go down? I'll talk about that in a moment. But for now, this timeline here looks like we need a little bit more of a correction. Our stochastic RSI is heavily oversold, so again, I think there's going to be a little bit of fear kind of eking into this one. If we throw the volumes on, we can see that there is some pretty interesting volume coming up, but it is diminishing a little bit here. So we'll have to see if this volume continues to grow or just kind of phases out a little bit, slowing this decline a little bit here for Bitcoin. Ultimately, as Bitcoin pulls back, we are seeing some of the altcoins also bleed out. That's kind of to be expected, and that is obviously where we start to see the opportunity to accumulate. This is something I was speaking about yesterday in the video that I dropped. I think it was about 9 p.m. UTC. We had 3 great coins to potentially buy, and it was this ABC move that I was specifically referring to. So knowing that we are looking at pullback here, there's some interesting areas of support that we might want to kind of consider. But otherwise, 42,000 is the most probable area on our shorter time frame. Now, as we come up into our 4-hourly chart, we get a little bit of a different story, right? Because we don't actually have that B wave. We actually have a more definitive move, right? And if this is actually, what we're seeing here on our 4-hourly chart, we don't have these definitive waves that we can see here, then actually this might be just an entire A wave, as I said previously. That stochastic RSI is not oversold yet. Okay, so we might actually be looking at an entire wave count down on the smaller time frame, just equaling this A wave here, and then we obviously look to push up before potentially pulling back down. Obviously, at this point, it is just pure speculation, because we do not know for sure how low this one is likely to go. But on the break of these couple of candles that we've seen here on our 4-hourly chart, it's definitely looking more like this is likely to be a bigger A wave on the larger time frames. And this is something that I think is very important that we all kind of remember. Specifically when we talk about Bitcoin, there's a huge focus on 15-minute, 30-minute, or even the 1-hour charts, when actually, the macro view is the one trend that is going to kind of dominate the micro movements, right? So as we start to look at Bitcoin and we start to see that the 4-hourly, the 8-hourly, the daily need to have a correction, those are the kind of correction levels that you really want to be kind of dollar cost averaging into. You don't necessarily want to kind of FOMO in a bit too soon, buy the dip a little bit too early, and still see your investment decline a little bit further before potentially taking, you're seeing that kind of reversal and that kind of push back to the upside. So here, obviously, it's important that we acknowledge that this might just be an A wave down, and we'll obviously analyze that as we closer get to this point here. In order to invalidate it, we'd have to push higher than our 5th wave. So if this is come all the way down to C, and we are expecting this to be an A wave down, and our B wave goes up, that B wave should not cross any higher than our starting position. Okay, so we're going to be aware of that. So lots of ways to invalidate it if we start to see any kind of push back to the upside. I'll probably be, accumulating a little bit in this range, but I wouldn't be doing too much myself. I am more keen on seeing a slightly deeper pullback myself, and I do think that is something that is more probable longer term. So as we come into our 8-hourly, we get that story as well. We can see that we're heavily overbought, right? So although we are this kind of ABC move to the downside, we are oversold on those smaller time frames. The larger time frame, the bigger macro piece here, is a nice healthy correction to the downside. Specifically, if I zoom on out, after such a nice impulsive break to the upside. My range for this is going to be somewhere in this range 40k to 39k. This is going to be the kind of sweet spot for me personally. I think this is where we're likely to see the 8-hourly and the daily kind of reach its completed correction level. So although there's a lot of FOMO in the space right now looking to buy the dip after such a fantastic run, this first ABC on the smaller time frame doesn't even seem to dent what's going on here with our 8-hourly. So as we get into these higher time frames, it's becoming very, very clear that Bitcoin needs a deeper correction than what is currently being had. And therefore, we should potentially be wanting to hold out our urges to dive right back into the market and to FOMO in and try to basically pick up some altcoins at a discounted rate, when I think that discount is going to be extended a little bit further. Here in the UK, we call that the Blue Cross sale, and I think something like that might actually be on the horizon. As we get back into here, of course, we can take a look at the daily, and it's a very, very similar story. Heavily overbought as well. So ultimately, we are looking for this nice healthy correction to the downside. It's something that I think is going to play out over quite a few days. It's not something that's going to play quick and easy, simple, and kind of you're you're done and dusted, and that's that. I do expect this kind of corrective move to last, a week, maybe a bit more. It's always hard to say with timing, though. No one's ever going to get that right, me included. We have a good gauge, kind of an estimate based on experience in the space, but 9 times out of 10 you're going to be wrong, because crypto will just move at the pace that crypto wants crypto to move. We're not going to be 100% accurate on that side of things, but we can of course use the data that we have at our fingertips here to kind of give us the most probable outcome. And for me, that's going to be right in here between 39 and 40k. Obviously that push up has hired my expectation. I was talking about 37 to 38.5k. Obviously that push higher means that that low is also higher. So overall that's looking pretty good. Now obviously on the bigger macro piece, we take a look, everything's looking very, very good for a zigzag. And this nice little correction coming down here, if we were to look at it in multiple different ways, it's not impulsive down, but you could of course count this in lots of different ways if you want to, but it's in my mind very simple ABC, that being the C wave low actually a little bit higher, invalidating the ABC move any lower, because we've actually crossed higher than the A wave low already. So that's actually looking really good. This looks like all-time highs on the horizon here for Bitcoin, and of course consequently from that you'll also see new all-time highs, in my opinion, for many altcoins. Not all, but many of them will potentially go up into new all-time highs. But do watch out for those altcoin videos, as they will tell you a little bit more specifically what is going on with each of those coins. So guys, I'm going to leave the video right there. Hopefully you have found it useful and informative. If you have, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then do go ahead and subscribe. Tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you are going to be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.